going to turn it over to Jeff, who will start our session on how to securely interconnect your users with your infrastructure. Jeff, over to you, please.
Thanks, Alex. So why Winslow partnered with Zscaler? And so I really think that, one of the major reasons is that Zscaler is in a unique position in the security landscape. Almost 15 years ago, the founders of Zscaler realized that the proliferation of software as a service and widespread high-speed internet access would fundamentally change the way that companies conduct business. And this might seem kind of obvious in retrospect or hindsight, but I don't think a lot of people had this vision 15 years ago. And while this had a lot of different implications, one aspect of that change was that a traditional centralized security model no longer really applied. Corporate data was no longer confined to a single data center, either on-prem or off-prem. You have Salesforce, Office 365, Dropbox, and as users migrate out, and even worse from an IT perspective, applications you don't know they're using. You don't actually know where they're going. And then as employees have, not only the ability and are kind of expected to work from everywhere or anywhere rather, you could have the fastest, most advanced security stack possible in your headquarters, but that doesn't really help when you have an employee connecting to a SaaS app on wireless in a coffee shop halfway across the country. Being in IT, you can try and force them like, no, you must use the corporate VPN, but the minute, that is perceived as slow or they lock themselves out, that rule goes right out the window, and there's very little you can really do to enforce that. So in order to combat this new level of vulnerability, Zscaler actually developed a purpose-built, scalable, distributed security platform, which is a lot of adjectives, but it really is something I think is unique in the industry. Zscaler Internet Access can protect employees and data pretty much regardless of their location. And the fact that Zscaler has presence in carrier data centers, as well as those of the SaaS providers you may be connecting to, has the ability to actually accelerate access to those applications. So this is the rare instance where you can get something that actually provides security and better performance instead of making something perform so poorly it's almost secure by default. And Zscaler Private Access gives employees access to on-premises resources without the need for or hassle of a traditional VPN. Like I said, I think it's a really unique solution. It's been built from the ground up to solve the specific challenges of a highly distributed workforce. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Debelak, and he'll take you through the platform in more detail.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. Okay. So again, my name is Aaron Debelak. I'm an engineer here at Zscaler. And over the next 15 minutes or so, I'm just going to be showing you what Zscaler is offering and enabling you guys to really secure an increasingly distributed workforce. So as Jeff just mentioned, this is really the world in which Zscaler was born here. And it's a world where that traditional network is the center of gravity for everything. And frankly, it made sense for its time. All user traffic flowed back to a central location because that's where all the applications lived. And if a user wanted to go out to the internet, they would have to do so by first going through a security stack made up of physical appliances at this one location. But things have changed pretty drastically in the last decade here, and especially so in this COVID and soon to be post-COVID world we find ourselves in. Most applications and services have now moved entirely in the cloud, and users no longer find themselves working strictly from an office behind that traditional network perimeter that's protected them for so many years. So while every security vendor out there recognizes this shift, there's still a big difference in how security vendors have chosen to provide security for this shift. So on the one hand, over on the right side of the slide there, you have security vendors who have essentially chosen to extend the network mentality to the cloud. They've basically taken their single tenant appliances, they virtualized them, and then placed them in specific geographic locations within like AWS or Google Cloud, for example. But one of the problems with this approach is that the architecture just doesn't scale. It's not built to handle large spikes in traffic, and you're still forcing users to hairpin their traffic to a single tenant security stack sitting in a particular location. So this is a vastly different approach than Zscaler's, which basically moves its security directly to your users regardless of where they are, and essentially was purpose built to handle massive spikes in traffic and offers an extremely fast end user experience. And how we accomplish that is with a multi-tenant architecture that's now 160 data centers strong across 6 different continents. So rather than just sticking virtualized appliances in the public cloud and calling it cloud security, Zscaler owns and manages all of its own hardware and peers directly with all the major internet exchanges and hundreds of SaaS applications to provide you with the fastest possible connection, irrespective of your location. So the dream or the vision here that Zscaler is offering is really the ability for all your users and all your locations to go out directly to the internet and to be able to access internal applications directly as well. And all of this without sacrificing security. So the Zscaler cloud was purpose-built 13 years ago for this new world that we're now living in, where everyone wants this fast and direct path to the internet without having to backhaul or hairpin your traffic to that central hub before it's able to get out. And one important part of the overall security picture here is Zscaler's direct integration with other leading companies. So as a Zscaler employee, one thing I appreciate about this company is that it's always been good about staying in its own lane and recognizing that there are a ton of other companies out there that do certain things far better than it ever could. As the world's largest pure play cloud security company, Zscaler knows what it's good at and just continues to invest heavily in making it better, which even shows, in our acquisitions. So every acquisition is always a niche player that fits pretty seamlessly into the larger cloud platform. And Zscaler is never out there just acquiring companies to expand its market share and just hoping that the integration works out somehow in the end. So instead, Zscaler's approach here is that they just continue to work with the leading companies in 5 major areas you see here to provide you with an experience and frankly, a security posture that is truly best of breed. So in the next few minutes, I just want to dig in a little bit deeper into the 2 main solutions we offer to secure an increasingly distributed workforce. The first of which is what we call Zscaler Internet Access. So in a nutshell, Zscaler Internet Access is a full outbound security stack in the cloud that completely eliminates the need of those traditional outbound appliances. So whether we're talking about your data center itself or your branch offices or all of your remote users, in each case, we're providing an easy way to connect to the nearest Zscaler cloud, where we stand in line to prevent, so not just detect, but actually prevent, the many and varied attacks that come from the web. So specifically how we accomplish this, for all your locations, we'll build either an IPsec or GRE tunnel that will connect to the 2 nearest Zscaler data centers for redundancy. And then for all your remote users, we deploy a lightweight endpoint agent that automatically forwards the internet-bound request to the nearest Zscaler cloud. And then lastly here, when I say, full outbound security stack, I really do mean full, from an advanced cloud firewall and sandbox, to full SSL inspection of all your encrypted traffic at scale, to CASB and everything in between. Zscaler Internet Access is ready at hand to provide a faster and more secure way for you to access the sites and SaaS applications you need. But what about your private applications? So specifically those apps and resources that are not exposed to the public internet and remain internal to your organization. So today, most organizations are still leveraging a VPN of some kind to connect their users to internal resources. But as we know, just from news cycle after news cycle, VPNs are fraught with vulnerabilities and are often just the easiest way to breach an organization. So in part, this is because by their nature, VPNs provide that full network level access to the end user. So if a user or a connection is compromised, an entire organization can be compromised depending on the nature of the user's lateral movement. So 6 or 7 years ago, Zscaler set out to build a completely new architecture that provides authenticated users direct access to private applications without ever bringing those users onto the network. And that's what we call Zscaler Private Access. And how this works is pretty straightforward. So at the center of it all is still the Zscaler cloud, or again, what we call this Zero Trust Exchange. So again, 160 data centers strong here. And this is where we apply your policy and enforce, who gets access to what. This is basically where we broker the connection between the end user and the specific internal applications that they're authorized to access. And the other piece of this architectural puzzle is what we call app connectors. So these are essentially just lightweight virtual machines represented by these blue plug icons you see here in the cloud. You'll see another one here at the data center. And how this works is that an app connector would sit behind your firewall. It would be internal to your network. And it would basically know how to reach your internal apps. And it would then create a single outbound connection over port 443 to the Zscaler cloud. So the nice thing here is that there's no inbound connectivity here whatsoever. So let's say a user requests access to like an internal file share, for example. So that user, regardless of where they are in the world, would have their request forwarded to the nearest Zscaler cloud by that same lightweight endpoint agent we use for Zscaler internet access. And then we would apply your policy. So is this particular user, who's authenticated specifically by your identity provider, actually allowed to access this specific file share? If the answer is yes, the Zscaler cloud simply grabs this outbound connection here and it stitches it together with the end user. So while the user has direct and quick access to a specific file share that they're authorized to access, again, at no point is that user ever actually brought on to your network. And at no point does this user even have visibility into your private IP space here, whether you're hosting private applications on premise here or up in the cloud. And so this is what we mean when we talk about zero trust network access. It's really just an architecture, but it's an architecture that is itself inherently faster and more secure than any VPN. And what's cool here is that a few years after Zscaler released private access, Gartner came out and actually validated the architecture, saying ZTNA improves flexibility, agility, and scalability, enabling digital ecosystems to work without exposing services directly to the internet, reducing risks of distributed DDoS attacks. And in their estimation, by 2022, 80% of new digital business applications opened up to ecosystem partners. So we're talking, partners and vendors here, will be accessed not by VPN, but by ZTNA. And then furthermore, by 2023, 60% of enterprises, in their estimation, will phase out most of their remote access VPNs here in favor of a ZTNA solution. So at the end of the day, both of these solutions together make for a pretty strong marriage, regardless of where your users are working from. Zscaler Internet Access is there to protect all your internet-bound traffic, basically just allowing the good and blocking the bad, while Zscaler Private Access is there to provide a faster, more secure way for your users to access only those private applications that they're authorized to use without ever exposing your network. And over the past 13 years or so, Zscaler has been able to accomplish some pretty cool things for its customers. So for example, after becoming a Zscaler customer, the CTO of GE said, "It's a rare occasion in history where it got more secure, better, and cheaper all at once. There's no more remote on network or off network. You're just a secure GE employee with Zscaler." Another one here from the VP of IT strategy from Siemens. After they became a Zscaler customer, they were able to drive down their networking costs by a full 70%, which is pretty astonishing. And I'm sure for Siemens, that's no small chunk of change. And easily my favorite quote here from Alex Phillips, CIO of NOV, said, "We were living in appliance hell. We brought Zscaler in to get us out of it. The results of our journey, 4 times MPLS cost savings and 10 to 20 times faster speeds." And last but certainly not least here, something pretty special has happened this year just from an industry recognition standpoint. Zscaler was named a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for its 10th year in a row. And this is the first year that it is the only leader in that quadrant, and that by a pretty significant margin here. So this is both the result of Zscaler's overall vision in the marketplace and the result of Gartner talking to our customers for well over a decade now and asking them those tough questions about their experience as Zscaler customers. So with that, I will thank you for your time and your attention, and I will pass it back over here to Alex.
Okay, thank you, Jeff and Aaron. That was a really, really great overview of Zscaler, your platform, and how it solves for a lot of these issues with connecting one's users to the data systems and doing so securely. And speaking of security, as cybersecurity is becoming an increasing focus for our customers, probably because they're watching the news and seeing all the coverage of all the various breaches and so on, we strongly recommend that everyone not only starts that conversation internally, but also with us. And to that end, I'd like to offer our complimentary NIST security evaluation, during which one of our experts will review with you your security posture through a 60-minute consultative interview that will result in suggestions for improvement, as well as provide answers to your top-of-mind security questions. So definitely don't wait and contact your Winslow account executive today to schedule your evaluation. And also, I'd like to remind everyone, as we stated at the beginning, that all attendees are indeed automatically entered in a drawing for a Yeti cooler, really, really awesome and useful. But asking a relevant question does give you a second entry and double your chances. So that being said, we do have one question here for Aaron and Jeff. Aaron, I guess you first, please. Does RDP work through ZPA, not an RDP gateway?
Yeah, so RDP is a super common use case that we see for ZPA, and no shortage of our customers are leveraging ZPA to access RDP as of today. So again, pretty common for us and fully supported under the ZPA umbrella.
Okay, very good. Another question just came in. Is your solution user to user, or can something be done for site to site in a retail type environment?
Yeah, great question. So if we're talking about Zscaler private access, the scope for that today is really client to app, client to server direction. I know server to server support or server to client is forthcoming, but really this is in line with the overall SASE strategy. Again, is really enabling a workforce to wherever they are access those resources that they need. So the primary scope of ZPA today is just providing that direct layer 7 application access to users.
Okay, very good. All right, I don't see any additional questions coming through. So on that note, I'm going to let you guys know that the winner of the cooler will be contacted directly by your Winslow account executive. Congratulations. Also, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We hope that we did provide you some valuable knowledge. If you'd like to learn more about Zscaler or Winslow Technology Group, please email us at webinars, that's plural, @winslowtg.com. Thank you again for your time. Have a great day.